These are all the most mentioned countries every single month by the New York Times. Guess what time period this is? Well, we're really talking about Germany a lot. They found this data using almost 750,000 different headlines from the New York Times archives. And this really just kind of charts what exactly was going on in each decade of history. Now, something to keep in mind, where is the New York Times based out of? It's the US. So the US obviously has to have some sort of big relation with the country that's going on. The fact that this charts literally every single month in the last 125 years is insane. Obviously, the UK was the big boss dog at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century. Look at all these talks about Russia, though. Literally, Russia, Russia, Russia. And this is because the New York Times was heavily covering the Russo-Japanese War. Then we have the buildup of the Great War. We're about to enter World War I territory. Actually, Mexico starts popping up a lot because Mexico begins the Mexican Revolution right before, in fact, World War I breaks out. All of the American public switches to World War I once that occurs. Obviously, the U.S. enters the war in 1917. Funny that we were fighting more than just Germany, but New York Times was really just covering Germany. Then we have the interwar period between World War I and World War II. There is a brief moment in 1920 where we talk about the Irish War of Independence. Remember, we had a lot of Irish immigrants currently living in New York at this time. It's the random flags that I think make me really curious, like Cuba and then El Salvador in 1928. Sometimes it could be as simple as like, I don't know, like a hurricane, a really bad hurricane hit them. We talk about Cuba like every once in a while. You can literally see as our interest in Japan begins to grow every single year until, of course, well, 1941. Then it makes sense to talk about Japan. Now, here's what gets fascinating. World War II, look at the diversity in countries here. It's not anything like World War I, where it's literally just talking about Germany for 5 years straight. The U.S. enters World War I in 1941, and it ends in 45, but we're talking about, obviously, the Brits, the Russians. It wasn't until December where we enter. This is so fascinating. For all of 1942, we don't even talk about Germany. Like, Germany's not the number one I guess I should say we're probably talking about it, but it's not the most listed country. 43, we talk about the Soviets. Finally, the no-no Germans and the mustache man himself comes up in 1943. And just look at this switch from 46 to World War II is officially ended. We're just talking about Russia and the Soviet Union. You can literally see the Cold War take place. Now, obviously, 48, 49, you have the birth of Israel. But look at this. You have just Russia. The Cold War was so intense. Oh, we got Egypt there. What is that? The Suez Crisis? Bam-o! Then the Vietnam War kicks off, and it is absolutely insane. Like, the U.S. public knows, apparently they might know a lot about Vietnam, I would think. And then Russia becomes the hot topic again in the late 80s, right before they collapse. I wish they were using their actual, like the old Soviet Union flag. In 91 is when they collapse and the Cold War is officially over. And by 2003, we had already begun the invasion of Iraq. So we are really focused on Iraq. Then everything is focused on China. My goodness, the last decade has just been a focus on China. This is clearly the new Cold War.